Can you hear me? There we go. How's everybody doing this evening? I want to cover two things tonight before we get started. The first thing is to let you all know what this is if you've never been here. And this is also because some of the speakers we have tonight, we've not actually met, or at least I haven't, because they keep me separated from people. So we also want to kind of have a few things to help them along. So it's like a twofer here. First off, PechaKucha or PechaKucha? There's debate on this. The people that actually created this whole thing 20-some years ago, they say it's PechaKucha, which is apparently vaguely reminiscent of the word chit-chat in Japanese. They're an international architecture design firm, started out there, and they created this format because it's brilliant, because you're going to see tonight a speaker, you're going to have imagery. These images, they're going to have 20 slides. The slides are there for 20 seconds, and the slides advance automatically. So if you've ever been in a talk where the speaker goes on, like I am, and on, this can't happen here because the slides are going to advance automatically. So, and when it's all done, somebody else shoves them off the stage. So, the beauty of that is it keeps things moving. We get a lot of variety, and we get to hear a lot of voices from a lot of people, and that's great. But the other wonderful thing is if you're sitting here and thinking, oh my God, I cannot take another minute of this. Trust me, 6 minutes, 40 seconds, the next person's there. But the beautiful thing is you might be sitting there going, oh my God, but somebody else is going, oh my God, that's great, because I'm often in the back where the beer is and going, this talk, I don't know, it's kind of a dud. And then somebody after the show is going to be going, that was so great, and that talk was so amazing, which lets me know that variety is a good thing and that I don't have much taste. So the second thing is, like I said, the slides advance automatically. For our speakers, there is a speaker list over there. If you haven't looked at it yet, you might want to take a look. The other thing is that we want you to know is when the speaker starts talking, that's when the slides start. So that's your cue. So you can get up here, you can get situated, you can set your notes down. And when you start talking, that's when Joanne over here, the lovely person that actually makes this all happen, will start your slides. She's too busy working to enjoy the accolades. But the other thing I just want to say is if you're not used to using a microphone, please use the microphone vaguely like this. It's aimed at my face. It's about a fist or so away from the mouth, and that's what works. If you need to adjust it, speakers, it adjusts. If you want to pick it up, you can pick it up. These are perfect. These mics are kind of bulletproof. There's not an on-off switch. You can pick it up. But please, dear God, you need a microphone. You must have a microphone. You might think, I don't need a microphone because I can talk. You might not need the microphone. The audience needs the microphone. And the audience needs the microphone aimed at your actual mouth area. Because I was at a thing earlier in the week, and the person, I don't need a microphone, and they get the microphone, and then before you know, they're talking like this, and then you can't hear a word they're saying. Exactly. So that's the little thing. And the final thing I have to do before we get started, so our first speaker should be ready, Josh, I have to cover the emergency exits. It's a tent. Disperse. I would suggest if you are a little more spry than others, go over, because we don't want to have a stampede of the less spry towards the one open exit over here. I'd hate for Bob to get trampled. So please, let's go over the sides if you need to. So that's the emergency exits. After that, go wherever you need to go, depending on the emergency. If it's a big one, the airport and the train station is over in that area. Interstate freeways are back here. Bus stops are over there. If it's a nuclear thing, you're between New York City and Groton, New London. I think we're probably going to go quick. So just sit back and enjoy the show. Joshua.
Hi everyone. It's been a while since my last PechaKucha, about 5 years, but the first time I've made slides. Let's see. Oh, and it started. I have it down here. All right. Go. This is every street in New Haven where I've gotten a parking ticket. I've mapped it out, and this is an example of a parking meter from which I got a ticket. As you can see, the readout is blank. That didn't convince the judge. I took pictures, I took videos, and I said, I cannot pay for parking, the buttons do not work. And they said, you need to download an app to pay for parking. Or you can walk to City Hall to pay for parking. No, I didn't do this. I actually just paid the parking ticket. But now I get to tell all of you about it so that you know that if you're ever in trouble, you can walk to City Hall to pay for parking. You better hope you don't get a parking ticket while you're walking, because, yeah, this is an example of a parking ticket decision I got. As you can see, I didn't win it. This is one of many. I fight every single parking ticket I've ever gotten. I've won a small percentage of them, but I believe it's kind of our civic duty to make sure that everyone's crossing their I's, dotting their T's. If anyone's ever been in East Rock, this is a no street sweeping parking ticket. Anyone know how much this is? A lot of people know, $100. Actually, it used to be $75 and a tow, but Justin Elliker came and said, no, let's make it $100, but you get to keep your car. That's what we voted for. I guess that's better. This is a parking ticket in the city of Cambridge. I didn't get this one, but a trusted source said that I should use it. Because it was sent to my house anyway. I censored any personal information that might identify whoever that belonged to. This is an emergency order of no parking from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, I parked at 3:45 p.m., thinking there's no way I'm going to get a ticket in the 15 minutes before 4 p.m. I got a ticket. I have a gift. This is a picture of my credit card trying to go into a parking meter where there was a blockage in the slot. The credit card would not go in. Now, I took a lengthy video of me shoving the credit card into the slot and it getting stuck and posted it to the appeal decision, and they told me to download the app. Oh, here's my street sweeping ticket. I went up and down the block and took pictures of every tree that didn't have a sign on it and submitted it saying, there's no sign. There were a lot of signs. And if any of you have ever appealed for one, you know that they take a picture of your car with the sign in the background. So here's a more useful map. The green is all the places that I've never gotten a parking ticket, despite parking many, many times. I'm happy to send this around if anyone wants to make their own list of safe locations, or maybe you can add your own, and then we can come up with a little revolutionary map with which to not pay our parking tickets. This is my most recent appeal. I texted it to a friend. I explained that their cat was sick, and I needed to drive it to the vet, and the cat is not doing so well. This is unfortunately true. What's not true is when I said that we're all working in shifts so that someone can always stay with the cat, and I will be parking there again tomorrow to make sure the cat is not alone. Here you can see the cat, as well as two beautiful people who also get an extraordinary number of parking tickets. Yeah. I included this image in my appeal to fight the parking ticket because I just thought that I should come at it from every possible angle. Make sure the city is fully informed about the short notice you're on when you need to pick up a sick cat. So I asked ChatGPT to fight a parking ticket for me. This is a computer AI. I have included this on multiple parking tickets. I think it's a bit wordy. but I'm hoping that it'll bore them enough that they'll just waive the parking ticket. This is the funniest excuse I've gotten from ChatGPT, which says there was a no parking sign, but it was misspelled as no paking. Now, the fact that ChatGPT came up with this means that it scoured the internet and someone has used this as an excuse. This is an example of a bad place to park. Now, I don't know if they got a parking ticket for this, but I hope they fought it. And if they fought it, I want them to reach out to me and let me know how. Although I doubt I could use the same excuse. This is to the past year, the total of parking I've paid. As you can see, I've only paid parking 6 times. I've probably parked downtown about 30 times. Thank you. Thank you. But hold on, the next page is how many tickets I've gotten. So hold your applause. Oh, actually, it's not. So this is a picture of public transit. I was going to talk about this, but I'm going to do something else instead. I parked right over there, and I told them that I got a parking pass to park in the restricted parking. I didn't. So I'm going to go see if I got a ticket. Thank you very much.
Everyone. Yeah, I'll just take the mic off. Hope everybody's enjoying their evening tonight. I hope everyone is enjoying their evening. Okay. My name is Mark Wilson, and this is the coming of Elite James Entertainment. I am an audio engineer. I am a musician. I play piano and drums. I've been playing piano and drums my whole life. It started for me at this church called St. James. And my cousin Tyler, as you can see in the last picture, he basically was my inspiration as far as performing. I always saw him performing, playing drums in church, and I always wanted to be just like him. So I would go home with anything, everything that I had, like little cans and stuff like that, and just perform around the house, and it became bigger than I ever expected. My family, tied into it, and they started throwing all these instruments at me and just telling me to perform in front of everyone. For just about every family event, it turned into a situation of purpose. I found purpose for myself at a really young age. It also opened the door for confidence. As far as performing, most definitely. This picture here was a picture of Mr. P. He was a great influence on my life as well. So moving forward, performing was really an outlet for me. Growing up in New Haven, it's not the best in every area, So, you have to find different things to keep you influenced and to keep you out of trouble. And music was my outlet. Music was my meditation. Music is my love. And I ended up playing for churches, weddings, funerals, and it ended up growing into a space of me wanting to teach at a young age as well. This is my cousin Kevin. This is at a church. My godmother is Apostle Washington. She's a phenomenal woman, and I played the piano for her for years at church. So moving forward, fast forwarding throughout life, as you can see, I have a limp. I had spinal surgery not too long ago, a year ago. I was in a really bad car accident. So that kind of made it challenging as far as playing instruments and, playing the drums and piano how I used to. But I didn't let that stop me. I kept going, and I gained a lot of muscle back in my arms as far as the piano is concerned, and that was probably the biggest gift for myself. And one of my biggest supporters over there is my nephew. In the last picture, he's just been there, and him being there, I was able to see the influence that I have on my family and the influence I have on a lot of people around me. A lot of people look up to me as far as music is concerned and just my character. People ask me for advice all the time and stuff like that. I'm really dedicated. That's one thing about me. I put a lot of time and effort into learning how to audio engineer after surgery because it had a piece of the music, and I love learning. And I didn't want to stray too far away from music, so I dove and I dove and I dove. And this is a picture of me teaching myself, going actually back into school for audio engineering. And with that, created Elite James Entertainment. Elite James Entertainment, I actually got all of the stuff for the studio, and I had no clue what I was gonna name it. It was just like a feeling that I had inside. I was just like, okay, I gotta get this, I gotta get that, I gotta get this. And I had no clue everything that I was tying together. And at that point, Elite Jams came about, and I have the opportunity to use my nephew as a tag for beats that I make, and also for this unreleased project that's coming up. It meant a lot to me to be able to just be able to provide something like that, not only for him, but for New Haven, the neighborhood I grew up in. Also, the kids I grew up with, not too many have guidance, or have people to show them different ways how to be successful and fight for their dreams. And I am a prime example of, having something, losing, maybe feeling like you lost it all, but picking back up and not letting anything stop you. And right now, my business is actually still in the development, but this is the studio. It's across the street from Town Hall in West Haven, and it's phenomenal. I have customers just about every day. I'm booked up so crazy. My family barely ever has. I barely ever see them, but the mission statement for my business, honestly, is to create different opportunities for, the neighborhood and just everyone that I meet. Music was always a connection for fellowshipping and, just building character, or even, like I said earlier, confidence. These are my parents. These are some of the best supporters I've ever had. Usually they say when you grow up and you put your craft in other places, it's other people that latch on to you. But my family has been the biggest support group that I've had, And also, like I said, ending, I want to just create the opportunity for other kids like me growing up, and just to let them know that, you know, there are other outlets out there other than the streets, and there's other ways to complete your goal and to find your passion. So, thank you.
You said it starts when I speak? Yep. Hey there, everyone. So I've lived a very difficult life, always having to be the most handsome in the room. On a serious note, it's about more than that. I went through a point, I'm on a constant journey of self-discovery. Learning to live in my power, learning how to wield my power, learning what's important to me. I worked a lot of jobs where I felt unfulfilled. I tried the corporate ladder. I was angry being in traffic every morning, every evening, missing time with my son. And I needed to find a way to really get the most out of my life, where I can be happy, and again, where I can live in my power and, you know, express myself as I want. And so my purpose of this story today is to tell you the story behind Ethos, which is my first wearable art exhibition. And Ethos is an introspective view into the traits and characteristics that drive how we present ourselves to the world. And for me, it started with me internally, how I present myself, how I want to present myself. And so how I dress is according to how I feel or how I want to feel. It's for no one else but me. And part of my mission to inspire and empower is to instill that energy into others through making wearable art for them. And so my first collection is called The Heroes. And The Heroes is superhero-inspired streetwear. So the last few slides that you've seen are examples of what the heroes are like. So when you put on this clothing, you feel like you're the favorite version of yourself. You feel your power. And then the thing about choosing the characteristics and the traits, I feel like we each have the characteristics and traits of a hero, of a villain, or of an anti-villain. And it's which of those we pick out and choose that fuels our power and how we present ourselves in the world. So that was my journey of finding the hero within myself. The second collection is The Jungle. And The Jungle focuses on florals and animal prints. And from my experience, this correlates to growing up in the urban jungle, growing up in the city of New Haven. You have your real life dangers, you have your predators, and then you have the beauty of it, like the art world, like things like this today. New Haven is heavy for entrepreneurship, but then there's also dangers that I've experienced of, anyone from New Haven, especially during a certain time, is familiar with gun violence and men, especially black men, being seen as predators and as violent. So furs, like this slide right here, represents the predators. And really, we all live in this urban jungle, and it's about what we do with our experiences, what we do with the predicaments we're in, what we do with the beauty, and how we use that to get the best versions of ourselves, our favorite versions of ourselves. So that's what The Jungle is about. The third collection is called The Lovers. So much with building our how we present ourselves and how we identify ourselves has a lot to do with the personal relationships that we have. So with our parents, with our siblings, with our lovers, we are influenced by, the different factors of those relationships. I'm sure you've had people who have inspired your style of dress or people who have inspired your outlook on life. Maybe there's someone who told you to go to a doctorate program because that was the best way for you to work. Or maybe there's someone who said, who just believed in your art or believed in whatever vision you have. So the lovers, again, it reflects the personal relationships we have with people, the synchronicity, and then how those relationships, build our character, how we feel about ourselves, and how we present to ourselves. So, yeah, that's the lovers. The fourth is clarity. And clarity, especially on this personal journey of mine, is the point in my life where things start to make sense to me. Have you ever been through something where experiences in the past didn't necessarily make sense to you, but once you go through the experiences of life, it all starts to make sense? That's what clarity is about. So clarity is when the ideas start clicking. It's when the seeds that you plant start coming together. It's when you start learning the lessons earlier, or you start avoiding things you don't need to be in. I came to realize that really the most difficult positions I've ever been in life, I put myself in. And a lot of that is, 1, not living in my power. 2, falling victim to the jungle. 3, I had to learn how to nurture my relationships, how to be okay with learning, how to be okay with growing with people and accepting the love and the energy. And now I'm at that point where I have the clarity. And so the 5th collection is ethos, which is a culmination of all of those experiences. So for my ethos, I feel that I found the God within myself. I feel that I'm living in my power. I feel that now I'm at a point where I can yield it. And so my mission to inspire and empower, and one of the reasons why I make wearable art for other people, is so that, 1, people can feel, again, that power within themselves, so that people can start to identify and present themselves as they want to, for people to challenge their norms and really take the steps to, again, just be the best versions of themselves. And so that's what Ethos, the Wearable Art Exhibition, is about. It's a fully immersive exhibition. So instead of a traditional runway show, I have a gallery setting. So I have installations with settings, and I use mannequins instead of models, so people are able to walk through and experience it and touch and feel the clothing. There's also a 5-song EP, so each collection has a song that serves as the soundtrack. And then as visuals, there's also a cinematic portion where you put 5 videos together and it forms a mini movie. I have a chef who curates the meals according to themes of the collections, and then I also have a mixologist that does the same thing. So it's bringing all of my art and all of who I am together, and thank you for your time.
Hey, New Haven. Can we get in our bodies? Can you sing with me? Hello. I invite the people in the back, stand up, come forward a little bit. Donish, Mike, I see you all. Come on, bring it up. I'd love to sing with you all today. I found it to be a powerful form of expression. Thinking about that theme of clarity really just sank in with me. So, yeah, I'd love to sing with you all today. And if you let me, I'd like to guide us through some of that. If you're sitting there thinking, so nervous, take a deep breath. Everybody feels that way when they're about to sing, to some degree or another. So we're going to start. I'm going to ask you to copy me, and I'm going to move this stand to kill some time. We're going to make some silly noises. Repeat after me. Boo! Let's do that one again. So. Let me hear you, New Haven. Huh. I'm going to use my hands to show you what I want you to do. And I'm going to show you some different hand signals for different sounds that I want you to make. There's 4 sounds. Ooh, oh, ah. You don't need to do it right now. And we're going to practice this after. So I'm going to go slow. So this is All right, here we go. I still have some practice left. Well, let's just do what we were supposed to do next, and that is breathe. Let's just take a minute. You probably weren't expecting to be in your body or use your body in this way right now, so breathe with me. In, 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, in. 2, 3, let me see you breathe out. 2, 3, come on, breathe in. 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3. There you go. Nice. That feels good, doesn't it? All right, let's do an experiment. Excuse me. There are slides that are going to come up numbered 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. That's all you're going to see on the slide. When slide 5 pops up, I'm going to sing a note, and you're all going to sing the same thing with me. Eventually, you're going to run out of breath, as bodies do. And once you run out of breath, breathe back in, sing that same note again. You're going to run out of breath again. Breathe back in, sing that same note again. And then around the 4th or the 5th or the 6th time, whenever you're ready, sing a different note. And you might be thinking, what about the person next to you? What about the person next to me? This is going to be dissonant. This is not going to be good harmony, in case you're concerned about that. This is just about letting out what is in your body. The title of my talk is Expressing. So this isn't about being perfect. This isn't about fitting in a box. This is about, ah! Or, ooh, whatever's in your body. That's what we're going to let out. So slide 5 is about to come up. Again, I'm going to sing a note. You're going to copy me. And then let's see if at slide 0, we can all end up singing the same note again. Let's try. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, and in.
My name is Spencer Lucky, and this is Steve. He's making his way towards a climber. We make these amazing jungle gyms. We send them all over the world. And here's Steve. He's approaching a climber that he's about to put some cable mesh on. You can see that there's all kinds of little snips and things to hold the cables in place, but he's actually going to add a lot more cables. And then we're going to pack them up, and this is a completely different project. Actually, the project that he was working on is in the foreground there, and it's before the paint actually got the green paint. It's that we put primer paint on. You guys know what primer paint is? This guy's falling asleep. Amazing. After all that singing, I can't compete. We also make Evil Playground. This is the first piece of Evil Playground. Everyone says the devil's in the details. These are some of the details. We've recently refined some of our entrance details. I'm just talking about this. The image on the left is this sort of swiveling universal joint that we can apply to almost any condition. It's been just such a game changer for us. Oh, and there's Nate. You can tell that this is Nate because, well, he's got his face covered, but he's such a good guy. You know, and this is obviously a pandemic shot. This project here went to South Korea, and the way I can tell is because they were the only people that I've ever successfully sold pink platforms to. Nobody out there wants to make sort of feminine, gendered playground equipment. It's really a crazy thing. There's a little pink here maybe, but that doesn't dispose of what I just said before. Anyway, this one went to High Point, North Carolina. It's on its side, obviously, because my shop isn't that big. It's still pretty big. It's right in here in New Haven. But the funny thing about this picture, in my opinion, is not only that there's an American flag in it and a beautiful rainbow, but there's a piece of furniture. Oh, we're also doing this project in Phoenix, Arizona. They're turning a beautiful little piece of desert into a hideous lagoon, which is going to be really depraved and disgusting. You're going to be able to stand in this lagoon and watch rock concerts. But as part of this, there's a Mattel-themed play park. Here's a project that we sent out, made during the pandemic. Some of my friends came and played on it. This one went to a little apartment complex in Hong Kong. It's very sweet. So are the kids that are playing in there. Still good friends, even after this dreadful experience. It's probably falling apart by now. Here's a project, another one for a fancy apartment building in Hong Kong. This one showed up late, and we actually made it too big for the space. So as you can see, it's got this really crazy geometry, and it caused a lot of problems, and I didn't get my final payment. But we also work for the Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, and they're very safety conscious. And so this is for the ultimate family suite. If you guys, any rich people here? Anyway, if you're really rich, you can get a place in the ultimate family suite, and you get your own little lucky climber there. And this little never mind that. We're in the big leagues, folks. And the reason why I know that is because this climber, this image here, is of a climber that we made for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's actually at Pirate Stadium. You guys, big leagues now. Anyway, it's really pretty banal. That's a pirate ship. I I don't know what to say. Here we go. This one went to a mall, a development in Hong Kong. Also, here we go, back to Hong Kong. And it's called Sinoland. And I like to imagine this thing rolling down the street like this and picking up cars and tossing them around like a, I don't know, it's just a violent fantasy. You guys ever have violent fantasies? We just did all that great singing. I feel like, oh, this one went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And the cool thing about this, in my mind at least anyway, is that we took a very simple thing, which is just this sort of bowstring truss, and bent it a little bit and then made it a little bit asymmetrical. And this maintains all of its sort of static. Anyway, the engineers liked it. This, and it got made. This one here is a project that we made in Mumbai. It's actually still as yet unfinished. It's there, I've been told. But they also owe me a lot of money, so I suspect that they're not showing me pictures of the finished product because they don't want to pay up. This is our first all-white climber, which actually it's got electric lights instead of LEDs. They're programmable. Maybe you guys have heard of them. Maybe you have them in your home. They're really fabulous. They use a lot less light electricity than your typical light, and they're programmable. It gets me to the heart of this project, this talk, actually. This is a proposal for a climber that I did for the Tony Harp administration. It's behind the Hall of Records over there. And I always think it would be really fabulous to do one of these projects here in New Haven. So, oh, God. Thank you very much. Who can tell me where this one is? Or not? Oh, we have a winner. Excellent. So, as you can see, it kind of hangs. Who knows how it really works? Who cares? It's colorful. It's fun. Kids will love it if they don't fall out. This one, obviously, Nate hasn't gotten involved with his mask and all of that. This one, if you turn around, you can catch the scene. It's actually that white tent's kind of obscuring where I think I did this for Mayor Elliker. He called me, and of course, I do anything the mayor says because he's that kind of guy. But I would, this is also the flavor of the month color scheme, which you'll see here. Who can tell me where this one is? Yes! So yeah, flavor of the month, I don't know. I just do this kind of thing, and I try to get somebody to buy it, and unfortunately, like 4 people bought this color scheme, so I don't know. It's actually kind of a good thing. I can save a lot of money on plastic colorant and paint, stuff like that. And I have this other kind of fantasy nobody solicited me to do this, but you guys, if you look down the street, there's an empty bank. It's been empty for how long? 20 years. Anyway, my dream is to one day turn it into the fun bank. You guys get where I'm going with this? You do. I don't know what would happen in a fun bank, except you'd need a big, fat, lucky climber. This one is got cabbage and a reflective mirror finish on the bottom of it, which I think everyone would love and enjoy, and for no good reason. Actually, Prince died right around the time that I was doing this, and I'm kind of a Prince fan, so I just thought I should have a little purple in it. Thank you very much. .300 East Street. It's fully alarmed. Don't get any funny ideas.
Different from up here. How do you move it up? Like this? How's that? Okay. Hello. As a teacher at the college level, I thought that I was seeing a deterioration in the command of the English language. I'm sorry? A deterioration of the command of the English language. And this led me to do some research on the internet, and I found some interesting linguistic benchmarks. William Shakespeare had an active vocabulary of about 60,000 words. And today in the United States, it's said that we have about 20,000 words in our active vocabulary, of which we only use 1,000 on a daily basis for 95% of our communication. So this got me to thinking, if we were in the 16th century, I wouldn't even be able to talk to kids and do their fairy tales because I wouldn't have the correct language. It'd be something like this. In time past, though not long ago, there lived pigs, in number 3, in stature little, who, being of an age both entitled and inspired to seek their fortune, did set about to do thusly. When they had traveled a distance, pig numbered first spake, saying, "Hearken, brethren, heed this tempestuous realm. Tarry we long from hearth and home, we shall fare, I fear, not well." And so, being collectively agreed but individually impelled, they set about each to erect for themselves an abode. Pig numbered first did erect his from straw. Pig number 2 did likewise, though rather not from straw, instead from sticks. Meanwhile, unique in his imaginings, pig numbered 3 did construct as his domicile, stalwart and garish, a structure made from brick entirely. But soon there happened along, as is frequently the scenario in case of protagonist pig or red-hooded child, a wolf. Carnivorous nature in full season, he called out to the straw ensconced swine, saying, "Pray thee, little pig, grant me entrance." But pig 1 recalled with sage foreboding that he is mad who trusted the tameness of a belly-pinched wolf, and responded immediately, "Nay, it shall not be, not by wit or whiskered jowl." To this most expected response, the wolf replied, "Then steel thyself, little pig. Forthwith shall I endeavor by employing means both huffing and puffing to dismantle yon flippant flaxen fortress." Whereupon there issued forth from the wolf an exhale of gale proportions that quickly rendered straw hovel to dregs and dross, and carried aloft piglet and shattered quarters both. Exposed now to claw and fang, piglet 1 made haste, piglet 2, a wolf in pursuit, to the stick-festooned sanctum of peccary secondary, causing pig 2 to cry out in dismay, "Well, this knots my knickers." The marshalling a feral wolf to my doorstep is nowhere amongst those endeavors amenable or congenial. 1,000 pardons, begged one. It would appear the beast's baneful breath hath purged me of home and sound judgment alike. The malevolent blasts of the wolf's exhale shattered second swine shack and shortened sanctimonious scolding simultaneously. Lo and behold, squealed 2, stand we now amidst wooden wreckage, tremulous and vulnerable, with nary a strategy for eschewing the canine devourer looming in deadly proximity. "Strategy," exclaimed one, "while it is noble to contemplate tactical particularities, pressed as we are with time constraints preventing strategic conversation, I would urge we run. Wee. Whether by their own fleet-footed competence or the wolf's windless attitude, the bantam porkers arrived at their ultimate kindred neighbor's inexpugnable brick-ingress unscathed. Upon the third pig's door with urgent hooves they pounded, crying out, "Unbar this entrance, and with haste we beseech thee." The third pig hailed from the American colonies, and possessing a vocabulary substantially less robust than his impromptu visitors, replied, "Say what?" "Seek we sanctuary," they implored on the verge of hysteria, "lest we fall forthwith to the ravenous appetency of yonder approaching carnivore." Pig 3 did render ajar, still confounded by their importunate words, Pig 3 did render ajar his portal, whereupon 1 and 2 spilled through and collapsed beyond his threshold, enervated. So you all just wanted to come in? You could have said that. Sinister hiss of wolf could be heard outside. "Pray thee, pigs, grant me entrance." The wolf said 1 and 2. The wolf said 3. "What do you suppose he wants?" "He seeks to gain purchase within. Indeed, he would occupy this very alcove, were he but afforded the most meager of opportunities." "Right. Reckon I'll just go ask him what he wants." "Under no circumstances," squealed 2, flinging self bodily against portal. "There is naught to be gained accosting external opponents, save our own immediate demise." "What did you say about my mama?" House and occupants were once again and a blast of wolfish wind. The foundation shook, the frame rattled, and lo, to the astonished eyes of piglets and encroaching scoundrel alike, stood the third pig's lodging undaunted. Aghast and befuddled, two queried of three, how does, against such relentless and torrential onslaught, this domicile endure? Pig 3, puffed out chest, tapped a hoof to the hearth and said, it's American made. Thank you.
I'm here to kick us off for the second half, and we're going to expedite this. I had about 40, 45 minutes, but we have a tech rehearsal for the band that's playing tomorrow night right here on the green. That's going to be happening, so we're trying to make sure we get done in enough time for that to happen. Also, as a bit of an announcement, if you have lost your phone, and by that I mean this evening, and you don't have it with you, they have a phone over here, and in about 10 minutes they're going to start going through all the pictures. So check your pockets. I'm good, but okay. So that was Mr. Tim Kaine. The next people I have to thank are our presenters. It's always a surprise who we're going to have. Nobody lets me know until the show, and it's like, wow, these are some really great people. But yes, the presenters. We also have to thank the International Festival of Arts and Ideas for being foolish enough to let us back and to give us free beers and a 10 on the green. How amazing is that? In particular, I want to thank the people that kind of helped set this up, Denise, Shaw, and Hope. But there's also been a bunch of other people here. You can see them just screwing around, making everything happen, and they've been doing that for about 2 weeks now, so they must be very tired, but thank you. I also need to thank Design Monsters, which typically I don't like to, when George is here, to thank him personally because it goes to his head, but Design Monsters is Susan McCaslin and George Corsillo. George does all the posters that we use in these things, and so he's actually kind of amazing, but don't tell him I said that. We also need to thank, this is a group effort, and this is, it's a cast of thousands sometimes. People move in and out of the orbit of this New Haven event, and so also we're always looking for other people that might help us find speakers, help us actually understand what this social media thing is to help extend the reach. So, but these are some of the folks that have been involved over the time. I also have to thank Joanne, my lovely wife. She's actually the brains of the operation, and by the operation, I mean our entire lives, which we just had an anniversary, and it was, I think, 29 beautiful years, 32, 29 beautiful years. But that's her. We were just at Niagara Falls, and we've actually been around forever. I just want to point out she was not a child bride, okay? So, but she was damn near. So yeah, we've been together for a long time. But most of all tonight, we need to thank you all for actually being here, because without you, this would be a whole lot less fun. So thank you very much. And we should have our next group of speakers, and let's give it a go. Oh, I forgot to say, before I forget, this is not just here in New Haven. You can see on this slide, this is a worldwide phenomena. And if you can see, this starts here with New Haven tonight, but if you're going to Vancouver tomorrow or Goa, India, you can have a show. But I want to point out, look on the 25th, which is Bridgeport, they're having a show. So what we've always said, if you don't like the way we do this, get your own. And Bridgeport folks said, hell with them, we're getting our own. And they're doing it on Sunday evening at the Planetarium in Bridgeport, I think, and it's going to be a fabulous show. So always like to plug them just because they're wonderful people. So, but that's coming up. So without further ado,
Only girl. I got to adjust the microphone a bit here. So, hi. Even though this is a story about a moose, my last name is Fox, but this is a story about how a moose got me through the long days of quarantine along with a community. The prelude to which this story began was years before when a shaman told me that the spirit of a moose was with me in this lifetime, guiding me to share my talents and to trust in joy. So I put a huge moose tapestry up in my music studio. I make my living as a musician, so as I sang and practiced and played, I would look into his eyes and his spirit would empower me to be bold, playful, and true, to trust in joy, like a child immersed in the creation of a painting. Trust in joy. Surrender to the present moment. Fall into the bliss we feel when focused on something we love, like a crystal or a song or a person that we love. And then cut to the beginning of quarantine in 2020 when we were all freaking out. My daughter Lucy was my only housemate, and she got very sick, and I had to learn how to teach 30 piano lessons per week online, and all of my gigs were canceled, which means half of my income was canceled. And so bliss was a little bit hard to come by. But Lucy started painting this beautiful photo, and I sat at the piano, and I flipped on Facebook Live, and we felt a lift. So we kept going, night after night, with songs and paintings. And a week into this routine, I played a full show, taking song requests online with a virtual tip jar, and I was happily singing to a wall and cheering for my damn self at the end of every song. And I made the money I needed to pay rent, and I had enough left over to share my tips with a friend. So the following Friday, thanks. The following Friday, my next-door neighbors, who double as my best friends, one of them I grew up with in Jersey, Michelle and her husband Ruben, they joined me on the Facebook show, socially distanced, singing a song from outside the window of our shared driveway that we called Far North Jersey Alley. Now, while we were doing this, that moose was up in the background, and people really loved it, and so we put Ruben in front of the window and had an artist make a likeness of his face, and he became our logo as a moose. So, sorry, I wrote it down. So the moose really hit the next level of fabulous when there were 3 men that joined the show to dance for us. They joined the show way, 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 way in the background, in the driveway, socially distanced again outside the window. And folks, this coming up is a rare close-up photo of the men that would become the Far North Jersey Alley way backup dancers. That's Ruben Ortiz, Ian Alderman, and my ex-husband, Ryan Gardner, Lucy's father. So you heard me correctly. My ex-husband was the backup singer for my online show that I gave from my living room during quarantine. They danced with umbrellas while Michelle and I sang It's Raining Men. They put on bright leotards and created Maniac from Flashdance. And we poured buckets of water on them when it was 30 degrees outside, and the audience freaking loved it. They bought T-shirts with their faces on it. This is all from my living room. And during the week, the dancing men would choreograph the number that we decided on in the backyard, because we started the week on Sundays with a production meeting, deciding what we were going to do. So then they would choreograph, and then I, with my then boyfriend and now husband, who happens to be an audio engineer, would record a song for the Moose every week, one that we wouldn't do live. And show day preparations would start on Fridays at about 7 a.m., and curtain was 7:30-ish. And we would, with Lucy by my side, Michelle and I would take song requests for as long as the noise ordinance would allow. And the dancers twirled for us in graduation robes, on exercise bikes, in antlers, and once behind a cardboard yellow submarine. More and more friends joined the alley. We had musical guests like Tabisa and Luke Rodney. Then, yes, we did, in our little driveway. Then along came Charlie to sing a song with us every week. We were like the Muppet Show. We were the scrappy version of the Muppet Show. We had Tim Kaine. There were so many vehicles, too. We had Tim Kaine, who you just saw. playing trumpet, sometimes from his car, and Rachel Alderman with a sanitized microphone singing from her car. We had friends singing from the back of a pickup truck. We had Santa show up in a Mustang. We even had a huge RV pull into the driveway with crazy friends singing from the steps. My home turned into a God, I love that picture. My home turned into a television studio. Lucy, my daughter, had stage lights pointed at the driveway from her bedroom out the window. My studio was filled with cable and gear, and we had sets and sound checks and crew to help every Friday. And I worked round the freaking clock on the show while still teaching piano lessons, and we were laughing the whole goddamn time. And we let that be what really mattered and trusted the rest would take care of itself. And it did. It did. The online tips were still supporting me, my daughter, and we donated the rest to a different person each week. $5,000 by the end of quarantine, which for an independent musician is kind of a BT. We even created a world where Lizzie Donius, we interviewed her between a taxidermy bear and a taxidermy rooster. And it doesn't matter if anybody gets that or not. We called it between two taxidermy animals, like between two ferns. It didn't matter if anybody else got it. It kept us laughing for a week. So I marketed the Final Moose Piano Lounge on an obnoxious billboard in Westville, which was an expensive way to get a laugh. And I visited that billboard with Joanne Wilcox, my first social outing in quarantine 2021. We sat with ice cream and stared at the obnoxious billboard. For the final Moose Piano Lounge show, there's the crew from the Moose Piano Lounge. We partnered with a Broken Umbrella Theater, of which I'm a founding member, to create a show in front of an in-person audience who we would see for the first time 1 year to the day after the very first show. We closed it. Ryan, my ex-husband, built a set that looked just like my home, and my now husband made everybody sound good with the audio. And he made it just look like my studio with the moose proudly displayed in the background. So many moose loungers joined, and we lit up the night like a glowing crystal, and they stayed in the rain. And for the rest of my life, I will hold on to that memory of being on stage and looking out across a sea of umbrellas, childlike hearts with my best friend and my daughter next to me, ready to play in front of this wonderful community that was so willing to trust in joy. Thank you.
How's it going? Let me see if I want to sit down. Let me see what I want to do here. What's that? Oh, great. Okay. All right. My name is Yane, and this is the story of how I discovered self-intimacy. I am a recovering serial monogamist, which is someone who spends as little time as possible being single. Basically, we move from the end of a relationship to the beginning of a new one as quickly as possible. Now, in between relationships, I had situationships that still held emotional ties, all while still unhealed and unaware that what appeared to be anger ended up being fear and shame, and was showing up in my life as an emotionally codependent man who had to heal his inner child. But relationships were my way of ignoring these deep hidden wounds. Relationships validated me. They filled my void until they didn't. And when they were gone, I lost that validation, and I was left with one relationship that I never tried to cultivate, the one that mattered the most, the one with myself. And during my time of being alone, I wanted to really see what it was like to date myself. What was it like to spend time with myself? I don't mean what it was like for someone else to date me, but what it was like for me to date me. How was I exactly experiencing myself? So naturally, I ended up in a poly relationship with me, myself, and I. And I noticed one thing that turned me off completely. There was a lot of criticism, a lot of negative talk, a lot of doubt and worry and shame. And I knew that this relationship with me, myself, and I needed an uncomfortable, honest conversation. And this meant discomfort. This meant vulnerability. This meant fear of discovering my own accountability. This meant coming face to face with the inner parts of me that I neglected and kept hidden in the dark. You know, sometimes in life, light takes our sight and the darkness gives it back. So, me, myself, and I, we ended up going to therapy. We began to heal. We surrendered. We learned tools to use for better communication. We developed better ways to understand each other. We became patient, and we started to offer each other grace. And something magical happened. I met a new self. I saw a better version of myself. I saw what it looked like if I showed up in life with my inner child healed and full of joy. I saw what it looked like when you embody love rather than manipulate to receive it. Eventually, me, myself, and I, we got pretty comfortable exploring these dark places with each other. At this point in my journey, here's what I discovered. The relationship you choose doesn't begin when you find your partner. It begins when you meet you, when you fall madly in love with you. And this is when I discovered self-intimacy. It was this level of intimacy that broke my serial monogamy pattern for good. And during this time, I came across an amazing book. I recommend everybody purchase it, called The Spirit of Intimacy by Sobonfo Some. And she speaks about how to truly understand the spirit of intimacy. You have to let your guard down. Basically, in other words, you have to let your wounds be seen. So, once I evolved to that wholeness, I began to date a lot differently. And I noticed something. Even though I was dating more intentionally, I wasn't eager to jump into a relationship. I also became aware of an addiction that I had that I believe contributed to the serial monogamy pattern. I was addicted to the high that occurs when you make new intimate connections. You see, when you first meet someone that you really like, our brain experiences a state of consciousness that essentially is high. The dopamine skyrockets, heavy amounts of oxytocin are released, which is connected to positive thinking and sexual attraction. And this feels good, but it's temporary. It's not intimacy. And then the vasopressin is released. This is a monogamy hormone, they call it. Because when this is released, we begin to think about a future. We begin to imagine ourselves with this person on IG, cooking together, traveling together, just doing life together. And usually this was a way for me to confuse intimacy. Also, the neurological pathways that help us assess danger and objectively observe another person are completely deactivated just by being in this place of newness. So I had to be mindful of this because when you wear rose-colored glasses, red flags are just flags. For real. Intimacy. I was so addicted to that high for so long because it filled voids and numbed emotional wounds. I was looking for my reflection in broken mirrors. And the worst thing that you can do is choose a partner when you're high. But this addiction to newness can only be cured by one thing: self-intimacy. Now, what I want to invite us all to do is to just consider for a moment the depths of yourself that you haven't explored yet. What are the hard conversations you have yet to have with your partner or your loved one? How deep have you really gone with them for them to understand you more intimately and for you to understand them? Intimacy means loving gently. Intimacy is a dance with our emotions, a rhythm to healthy dialogue. When you love gently, you love in a place that flows with the person and creates a safe container for that person to express their changes and evolution. Intimacy, that's how you fall in love over and over again. Look, I'm not a relationship expert, but I've been married twice and one life-changing relationship. So you drive enough hoopties, you know cars. The only way I can ensure my next relationship thrives and the flame stays lit is that I practice daily self-intimacy. My healing, my self-discovery, the changing of toxic patterns, my self-accountability, my release of being a victim, setting up boundaries, or being a villain, my release of blame and shame is the most loving act I can offer my potential partner and loved ones. My name is Yane, and this is the story of my self-intimacy.
Hey guys. All right, cool. Hi, my name is Martin with a Y, and I'm here to talk to you about Burning Man. It's an event that's near and dear to my heart, and it's really more than that. It is a community, it is a philosophy, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Yeah, it's home. There you go. When you get in there, when you give them your ID and say, hey, I bought a ticket, I'm supposed to be here, they say, welcome home. So first off, I want to talk about what Burning Man is and isn't. A lot of people think that it's a festival, and it's really not that. It's a lot more. It is a philosophy, which I'll be discussing soon. It is ultimately a large gathering of people to create what is ultimately an attempt at almost a utopian society where all of your needs are met. The first burn happened on a beach in the mid-'80s in San Francisco. I don't know if this is a photo of that one specifically, but it is a photo of one of the early ones. And since then, it has grown into basically a functioning city with its own post office of 75,000 people in the desert or in a lake bed. It runs on, like I said, its own philosophy called the 10 Principles of Burning Man, which I will be discussing shortly. And those really drive how people interact with each other, interact with their environment, and interact with the event. And these sorts of 10 symbols were made by one of the groups there. The 11th principle, meanwhile, which some people say it isn't the 11th principle, it's the law. It's ultimately the most important thing there, is consent. So whenever we see someone, we're like, oh, hey, I see this person. I want to hug them. I know them really well. Usually you'll ask, like, would you like a hug? Also, photography is something that's usually very, not really forbidden or discouraged, but something you want to be careful with. But then going into the 10 principles themselves, first one is participation. We love participation there, right? People make such cool art, they want you to play with it. That banana over there is an art piece that I made, which is basically a banana that we just put on the road, and then my friends and I sat there with a megaphone on the side telling people not to slip on the banana peel, and people participate by pretending to slip on the banana peel. It was a great time. Communal effort is the next principle. Ultimately, this is an event. It's a town that we create together, right? It's something that we all work on. And this is also a perfect example of participation, communal effort, right? PechaKucha, I don't know if I said that right. It's ultimately something that we make together. We all participate in creating it. Next up, immediacy. Everything, this is very highlighted in Burns, everything is temporary, right? And there's so many cool things to do. If you see something that's really amazing, that really catches your eye, you need to go and do it, because in the end, it's all going to burn away, right? It's all going to fade, and it's all going to go somewhere else. Next up, civic responsibility. So over here you can see me as a fire safety for our conclave, which is where the fire spinners spin stuff, and then we burn an effigy. There is an image of someone at a bar, tending bar. Civic responsibility means that you are responsible for creating the space. You're responsible for making sure people don't get hurt. Then next up is radical self-expression. That can come in a lot of ways. Personally, the way that I interpret it is not just that you should express who you are, you should express yourself in the way that you dress, the way that you want to be, the way that you want to be seen, but also you express your needs, right? You tell people what you need, what you want, and then that lets the community help provide for you, not just you for them. Next up, gifting. So I'm actually wearing a few gifts right now that I got at Burns, this necklace, these bracelets, and gifts can be made in many ways. The art piece above with all the cards hanging in lights, that is an art piece, right? Art is a gift that we give to our community. Then the steak was someone made a steak at 4 a.m. I just found them cooking steak, and they cut me a piece at 4 in the morning. It was great. Decommodification. There is no money at Burns. There is no bartering at Burns. You don't... you gain more from a gift or from interacting with people, and you know that there is no exchange there, that they're giving you something because they want to give it to you, and that's highlighted. And then radical inclusion. We welcome everybody, right? We want everyone to feel at home. We want to work to make people feel at home. There are a lot of groups in Burns that focus on equity and inclusion as well, and we try to make it so that everyone ultimately feels like they are home when they are there. And then there is radical self-reliance. So the big Burning Man event is incredibly hostile. There are dust storms pretty much like once a day sometimes, and it's a lot. Other burns take place on mountaintops where it's freezing cold and there's just tons of snow, and it's awful. And then like a few weeks ago, I was at an event that was below freezing temperatures in the middle of May. So you have to be careful and take care of yourself. And then leave no trace. Ultimately, we're doing this in nature, right? We're doing this in an environment that we need to take care of. And so there are a lot of initiatives to keep track of MOOP, or matter out of place, which people leave around, right? Wrappers, just regular trash, waste. And we need to make sure that we leave our place with it being better for us being there. When it comes to burns, there's also the actual effigies, right? So these are examples of temples, effigies, and at every burn, there's basically two big events, right? The burn of the effigy, which is more of like a festive Saturday night thing, and then the temple burn, which is more solemn. And then these are what I call singes, and my friends call singes. So that's not an official term, but basically Burning Man has a lot of smaller events that people organize in their hometowns. This is an example of a competitive picnic in New York City, a shopping cart race in Brooklyn, and that's ultimately how I got into burns. Oh yeah, there's more singes. Great, I have more time to talk about this. Yeah, this is an example of, for example, a shopping cart race. This year in January, my team, we took a shopping cart, we got a bunch of cardboard, fabric, paint, and we made a giant slice of cheese. And then we all dressed up like cheese wizards with wizard robes and cheese hats and ran around giving cheese to people. It was great. Yeah. This is New Haven Competitive Picnicking. This is an event that I hosted a few months ago. Yes, woo indeed. Thank you to those of you who showed up. And this is my attempt to bring some of that Burning Man energy here with a group called Farce Incorporated. If you guys are interested in joining, hit me up. Yeah, we want to bring more burner type vibes and projects and events to New Haven, because that is the sort of chaotic art that we need to have in all of our communities. But yeah, in the end, just as a reminder, everything burns away eventually, and we need to make beautiful art to really just relish in the moment before it does. Thank you.
He lowers his weary eyes towards the ground. He's standing still, but his mind's spinning round. He's swimming deep in the sea of his thoughts. He's losing ground in the battle he fought. My name is Dom DeGennaro, and this is the story of how I found my identity. He's painting pictures of poetic praise. He's counting down the numbered days. November 2nd, 2015 is a day that changed my life. That was the first time I was hospitalized for psychiatric reasons after a serious suicide attempt, because I thought that was a way out. And it's not. He's making plans to run and escape. Won't anyone help him, for goodness sake? Imagine this. You're being tied down to a bed, held down against your will. You're in a hallway, and it feels like a spectacle. I've been through that. It's called restraint. It's one of the worst things possible. It's awful. It's a bittersweet time for him. He's crying. The dear Lord above can see that he's trying. In the hospital, I was once called a bad woman, and as a trans man, that didn't sit right with me. I don't think that sit right with anyone. But that kind of rhetoric is damaging, and it really made me feel subhuman. Yet, he still puts on a brave face, even though inside he sees a disgrace. The DSM-5, which is used to diagnose mental disorders, became my biography. It felt like I had lost all my identity to my mental disorders, and I lost who I was. I really did. And next, my identity as a trans male became very prevalent as I experienced significant gender dysphoria. And gender dysphoria is like wearing shoes that are way too tight, but you have to run a marathon in them, a never-ending marathon. And being in all-female facilities, it sucks because I had to play the role of female as a male. But he won't give up, no, not yet. He's ready to take that big first step. Obviously, there were negatives of being in the hospital, psychiatric hospital, but the positive was that I found out that I wanted to help people. I found that my passion was helping people, and I wanted to do so through music. Music played a very large role in my life as a kid. I remember I started by playing toy pianos and kid-sized guitars and singing really loud to my Hannah Montana CDs, which probably annoyed the hell out of my siblings. But still, I pictured myself on stage, lights in my eyes, just doing what I do best, which is singing. But my first time ever really performing on stage was at the 4th grade talent show. And by all means, it went horribly. I sang Rockstar by Hannah Montana, but it went horribly, and I had a chorus of classmates coming up to me saying that I should never sing again. So I didn't for a very long time, and I listened to them, which was not good because this is the time, so long he's waited. He's tired, so tired of being sedated. Songwriting became a weapon I could use against my darkest thoughts. It was something that I found to be so incredibly soothing and cathartic, and I could just let all my emotions out through my songwriting. It was really incredible. Once I found out that I could write songs, I was floored. I was beyond happy. And I also write songs for myself and for others, because in my darkest times, I write songs for others because I want to inspire them, but I also want to inspire and motivate myself when I have these dark times, you know? So in August of 2019, I found this cool place called Musical Intervention, and it changed my life. Musical Intervention is a sober community music space just a couple blocks down, and it really changed my life. There, I found that I could express myself and be myself and do what I wanted with my life because I was encouraged by the people there. And he beats his broken wings against the wind, and at that moment he wants to sing. A little over a year ago, I started my internship at Musical Intervention, and it was transformative. There I found that I could be myself and help others. I run a support group for musicians, I run a songwriting group, and I'm doing things that I never imagined I could do. 4th grade me would look at me now and say, wow, I did this. And I also found a great sense of community at Musical Intervention and elsewhere, and I found the community did a lot of good for me. It was very good for my mental health. I found people that I cared about and loved, and who cared about and loved me, and that was an excellent feeling. It was something that really defined my life, because I didn't have that very much growing up. I also spearheaded a project called Transcending the Silence Through Music, and that really was an amazing thing. It was to give trans and non-binary artists the chance to go up on stage and express themselves as they had never before. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. It was absolutely incredible to see their faces as they walked on stage and walked off stage, and oh, just amazing. Freeze taking flight for the very first time. This is hello, not a goodbye. I discovered that the best way for me to become a help was to become an RSS, or recovery support specialist. And a recovery support specialist is someone who uses their lived experience in the mental health system to help others. I also found my voice through music, and that was something that I really needed. I found that I could help others, and that was so unique because it was in a unique way, and I absolutely feel incredible doing it. It's like one thing that I really love in life. And what's next for me? I'm hoping to become a recreational therapist where I can further use my skills, and I'm going to school now for getting my associates and, making my way there, but I have plans for the future, and to inspire people is at the top of the list. I just want to continue to inspire people. If he left this world, no one would gain. I learned my lesson, and that is to hold on despite pain. No matter the pain that you're going through, it will end. There is always a brighter future, and I learned not to give up on myself. I learned that being alive is a gift, and I had a gift, and I had to share that with the world. So open your wings and fly, fly away. Tomorrow begins a brand new day. We want to know you're here to stay. I hope you heal, I hope, I pray. So, open your wings and fly, fly away, and maybe, just maybe, help others to do so too. Thank you.
Got to end on a slightly lighter note. Let us begin. This story begins during the early days of the pandemic in 2020. You see, while most of us were binging Netflix, Doug and his son Emmett did something useful. They built a boat they named Galazzo and took it island camping on Saranac Lake.
So Caleb here starts cracking jokes about the near certainty of a maritime disaster should anyone venture out in Galasso. You know, like people would starve and then they'd draw lots to see whom they would eat, things like that.
Which is what actually happened in The Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrick, the astounding story of a sperm whale that sinks a whaling ship in the middle of the South Pacific. I told Doug that he had to read this book, and he did, and he liked it.
Yeah, it's a great book. Okay, despite having only some hardtack, a couple of Galapagos tortoises, and a tiny bit of water, some people survived for 86 days in small open boats, mostly due to cannibalism. So in one case, the sailors drew lots to decide who would pull the trigger so they would have someone to eat. Gruesome stuff in this.
Gruesome.
Yeah.
If these events ring a bell, it's because they inspired a fellow named Herman Melville to write Moby Dick. Mortality rates. In real life, 60%. In Moby Dick, all save Ishmael. Doug mentioned that he was reading a book he thought I might like.
Yeah, so it was a story about a Confederate submarine that sinks a Union ship in Charleston Harbor. And here we go. So the entire crew perished after hand cranking this submarine straight at the ship and ramming it with a torpedo on the end of a spar. So mortality rate here, 100%. Caleb loved the book, and thus the Maritime Disaster Book Club was born.
The Charleston explosion was like a cap gun compared to what happened in Halifax in 1917. A ship packed with explosives bound for World War I collided with a second ship, setting off the biggest human-caused explosion that had ever occurred on the planet. This disaster killed 8,000 people and was felt 50 miles away. A great read.
Right, and in an act that altered the trajectory of the relationship between Canada and the United States, the people of Boston stepped up and provided so much aid to Halifax that to this day, the Christmas tree on Boston Common is an annual gift of thanks from the people of Halifax.
Our next book is set in 1879 and tells the story of some fools who decided to sail to the North Pole because, they figured warm water currents through the Bering Straits would leave the Arctic Ocean ice-free. Naturally, they got stuck in the ice, the ship got crushed, and it sank.
So they end up dragging boats 500 miles to the edge of the sea ice, where they launch the boats, find themselves in the middle of the Arctic Ocean, dodging icebergs, and suffering from scurvy. So remarkably, 2 of the 3 boats make it all the way to Siberia safely, which, should count as a win.
But winter was approaching, and they were hundreds of miles from safety. Of the 2 groups that made it to land, one group starved and froze solid. The other group miraculously made its way to a settlement and then insanely went back to look for the corpses of their friends. Overall expedition mortality, 61%.
Now, I know someone out there is thinking, oh, these guys would love Shackleton, right? But we know about this heroic tale of survival in the face of certain death, taught in business schools. But guess what? Nobody died. That's no disaster. Plus, look how much fun they're having.
So if you like these disasters, you're going to love The Prize of All the Oceans, mainly because it has this amazing graph of monthly mortality rates for 4 ships, but also because it's the rip-roaring tale of a 4-year round-the-world voyage in which pirates, a.k.a. the British Navy, captured the Spanish galleon full of gold and silver from the New World.
Conditions were awful. Imagine dying of scurvy in one of these hammocks. Yeah, it was horrible. But the booty that they captured was so great that it took 10 years to litigate once they got back home. Mortality rate over the 4 years was 74%, which is 1,400 people.
Book club membership plateaued at 2. But there was no shortage of books that led us to wonder, what was the biggest maritime disaster ever? Based on our research, which I mean looking at Wikipedia for 5 minutes, the mother of all maritime disasters occurred back in 1281 when an armada of 140,000 Mongols attempted to invade Japan.
Bad luck for the Mongols. So a storm called the Kamikaze Typhoon blew in, wiped out half the Mongols, the other half died of the sword. And so this total disaster was, we'll call it 100%, of 140,000 people.
The Maritime Disaster Book Club may sound like a book club, but in truth, it's an excuse to drink disaster-themed cocktails. And what do we do when we've had a few suffering bastards in Corpse Reviver number 2s? We brainstorm ways to make money.
Great. Any ideas? What do you got for me?
Let's do a podcast.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's a lot of work, and you can't really make any money.
Got a better idea?
Okay. Well, I once played Tom Sawyer in a musical. Maybe we could get people to pay us to go on maritime disasters.
The upside is huge. The overhead is low. The concept is simple. We send paying customers on maritime adventures that are sure to end in disaster.
Okay, so customers, after paying huge amounts of money and signing a 1,000-page waiver, are taken to the middle of the Atlantic in Galasso with a gaping hole in the side, no motor, no water, no food, and they get to have their very own maritime disaster.
What could possibly go wrong? In all seriousness, our hearts do go out to people suffering around the world in maritime disasters, including in Greece and the North Atlantic. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That's the show. If you watch this and you think, I could do that, the answer is yes, yes you can. If you think I should do that, you probably should. And if you think, fuck, I can do better than that, prove it. And there's a mailing list sign-up sheet back there by the beautiful Kevin Ewing and that tent right there. Special thanks to the festival folks, especially Hope and Tojo, who's made the sounds actually work. Special thanks to the presenters. And speaking of, if you are a presenter, come back up to the stage. We want to get a picture, but the rest of you leave. And now we return the green to the band.